Hello, this is Steve Shrimpton from Wifitrax. On an earlier video, I talked about controlling our switch machine controllers from a DCC command station booster. In that video, I demonstrated using the WFS-48, which is a servo motor switch machine controller, the WFS-43, which is a 4-channel stall motor switch machine controller, and here you see it with a tortoise switch machine, and the third one, WFS-84, which is intended for end switch motor switch machines. Okay, and in the earlier video I controlled all these with a DCC command station booster. This time I'm going to control them over Wi-Fi, not using DCC at all. And I'm using a very small module here, the WFD-60, which is designed as a Wi-Fi gateway. And in fact, it has multiple functions. I'll tell you about it a bit more in a minute. But that will control switch machines over Wi-Fi. So we've not got DCC connected to any of these switch machines. As you can see, the DCC inputs are left unconnected. And we've just connected power coming from a 15-volt DC supply, is looped through from one switch machine controller to the next. So, and the the test switch machines are connected as in the earlier video that I talked about. So now to the WFD-60. This module is really grown as time's gone by. It was originally intended to control battery-operated locomotives, battery-powered, I should say, locomotives over Wi-Fi. And it has the capability to act as a Y-throttle server, so you can use one of your apps such as Engine Driver or Y-throttle or the TCS UWT to control locomotives using this. But in this time, I'm not going to use it to control locomotives. I'm going to use it to control switch machines. So it's become a somewhat, how can I say, a multi-function module. And in fact, we may well change things in the future and have a layout controller, which is what this one is doing. It's controlling the layout, what we call the layout. In other words, switch machines could be signal, lighting, and so on. And then a separate module to do the locomotive control, which I just mentioned for battery-powered locomotives. Anyway, at the moment, the WFD-60 does both. And in this video, we're going to talk about its use as a layout controller. So it's simply powered from a 15-volt supply, one of the Meanwell supplies that I use for most of my demonstrations. Okay, well, I've now powered up all the switch machines, but I've not yet powered up the WFD-60. All the red LEDs are on. There's no blue LED on because we haven't got DCC connected. The green LED is also not on. Now, as I've mentioned before in earlier videos, you can control these switch machines individually by connecting your phone or tablet to their Wi-Fi access point, what I call the direct Wi-Fi access point. So you're on their own Wi-Fi network. And then you can open a browser like Safari or Chrome or Edge, and you can control all the channels individually. Now, that's all very well if you just have one switch machine controller and, you know, you only have 4 or perhaps 8 points that you're controlling. But in almost all cases, you're going to need more than one of these. So you can't keep connecting your phone first to one's direct access point, then to the other one's direct access point. That would be silly. So what we have to do is we have to arrange for all of these switch machine controllers to connect to what I tend to call a home network. In other words, a router which has got its own Wi-Fi network. Now, you can connect to the home network. Each individual one needs to be connected separately. You can connect by using a browser, actually, by connecting to its access point and then opening a particular menu item, HomeNet, and then you can enter the router SSID and password and connect like that. But a much easier way is to use a button on here called the WPS button. Now, WPS stands for Wi-Fi Protected Setup. And you might have seen it with Wi-Fi printers and things like that, where you press a button on your router and then you initiate WPS on your printer or some other Wi-Fi device, and it, after maybe a minute or 30 seconds, something like that, the router actually allows it to connect and gives and lets the device trying to connect have the network password. Now, of course, it only allows that for a certain period of time. You press a button on the router and then there's a certain period of time where the device can connect. But from then on, it can always connect as soon as it powers up because it's stored the network password, the Wi-Fi network password. Okay, so I'll start out by doing that with one here. But first, before I can use WPS, I have to press a button on the router. My router is a Netgear Nighthawk, and I can go down here and there's a button there which is labelled WPS, if you can see it. Press that and it starts flashing. So now that the router button is flashing, I can go ahead and press the WPS button on the switch machine controller here. And you can see the green LED comes on. That doesn't mean it's connected to the network yet. It just comes on and flashes a few times before finally it will stay on. There. So that's now connected. So now we need to do the same thing for the others. Okay, so I've repeated that operation for all three switch machine controllers now, and as you can see, the green LED is lit constantly on each one. Actually, you have to delay. You can only, there's a delay seems to be built into the router, so that you have to wait a period of time after connecting up one device for WPS before you can do the other one. Something like 5 minutes, something of that order. It's probably a security measure to prevent, I don't know, some bad actor from pressing the button many times and somehow breaking into the network. So they're all connected now to my router, my test router, which is the old Wifitrax Demo 3, which I think I've mentioned in previous videos. The WFD-60 is not powered up yet. Okay, so next we're going to concentrate on the WFD-60. So that's now powered up and the switch machine controllers are powered down. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my computer to connect to the WFD-60's direct Wi-Fi access point and set it up so it's on the same network, Wifitrax Demo 3. The WFD-60 unfortunately does not have a WPS button. I'll introduce that on later versions, but for the moment we have to use the menu using a browser to connect to the network. Okay, so now I'm on my computer, a desktop, and I'm going to connect to the Wi-Fi access point of the WFD-60, and there it is right there. So we tap on it and click connect. Okay, you identify this by the fact Wifitrax WFD-60 1 is the Wi-Fi channel, the next bit is the serial number, 7 is the subnet number. So it's going to be 192.168.7.1. You could of course use a tablet to do this, or a laptop. Even a phone would be okay too, although the screens are a bit hard to sort of see on a phone. Okay, so that's connected. So now we go to the our browser, which in this case is Edge. Type 192.168.7.1 WFD-60.7.1. The 192.168, by the way, is the sort of industry standard for an internal network as opposed to something that's actually on the internet. So there we are, there's the WFD-60 home, WFD-60 main menu. We've got various things here. We could just have a quick look at settings just to see some things there. It's got a Wi-Fi throttle gateway enabled, but let's not worry too much about that at the moment. We'll go to Home Net, and here we'll type in the SSID, which, as I said, is Wifitrax Demo 3, and the password I've actually set to P@SSW0RD. This is really for demonstration. This is not my real password. Click Install. And looking at the WFD-60, it flashed there, the green LED flashed to show it received a command. And in a moment, there, the LEDs come on continuously, showing it's connected to the Wi-Fi network. If we now check Home Net, we'll find that it is indeed installed. Now, although the WFD-60 has connected to the Wifitrax Demo 3 Home Net, I'm still actually connected to it on the same IP address on its direct Wi-Fi access point. But you can't do that now. If you power down and power up again, the WFD-60 will no longer advertise its direct Wi-Fi access point. So, and indeed, look here, you can see that it's now showing an IP address of 192.168.3.41. 3 is actually, or 192.168.3 is actually the subnet of this home network, and 41 is the address on that subnet that's been assigned by the router. So again, if we go to settings here, you can see that it's got that IP address. Now, while we're on settings here, notice that we've got Wi-Fi throttle gateway enabled, and we've also got something called rail mesh scanning enabled. Now, rail mesh is a name I came up with. I'm not sure it's a good one, but what I mean is the sort of network, the home network, with all of the switch machines, lighting controllers, whatever on it, and the WFD-60. So I call that a sort of rail mesh. So what can you do if for some reason you don't know the IP address that the router assigned to the WFD-60, or indeed any other module that's on your home network? Well, what you can do is you can go to the router itself, and that will invariably be 192.168.3, which is the router's subnet 1. Okay, and if we go there, well, you have to sign in, and it's usually the username is by default admin, and the password is usually written underneath the router somewhere. It's usually something like password, either with or without a capital P. As I say, written on the router somewhere, or in the instructions that came with it, or possibly your network provider, your ISP, might have provided you with a password. So we sign in here, and now we see this particular one, which is a Netgear D7000 V2, and if I go to attach devices, then it will show me all the things that are attached, and we won't worry about those. Those are actually my printer and this particular desktop PC. But the important one there is that one, and you can see that something is joined on 192.168.3.41. There's its MAC address, and there's the device name, and you can see that ESP means it's a one of my expressive modules which I use on my boards, and that's the only one on the network at the moment, so we can assume that that's the IP address. So now let's open up another tab here and type in 192.168.3.41, I think it was. And there we go. Now we see the WFD-60 web page. And now we're going to go ahead and turn on everything and see how the WFD-60 will search the home net and find the switch machine controllers that are connected. So we're going to actually go to remote accessories here, and by default, as I said, this rail mesh scanning, as I call it, is enabled, and I'm just going to make that a little wider. And the accessory list shows no accessories. It hasn't found any. There are none powered up, and it's scanning through the IP addresses on the home network. Okay, 192.168.3 dot, and then it does 24, 27, 28, and so on, and then it repeats. I'm going to go back to the settings page, and you can actually set on there the first scan address and last scan address. So here it's scanning between 2 and 30. If you had a lot of modules on your home net, or maybe a lot of other devices, then the router might have assigned an IP address greater than 30, in which case you'd want to change that. So let's go back to remote accessories, and now we're going to power up the switch machine controller modules. Okay, so now I'm going to power up the switch machine controllers. There they go. And you can see that all of the green LEDs have come on, so they're all connected to the Wifitrax Demo 3 home net, including, of course, the WFD-60. Okay, so now we're looking at the WFD-60 accessory list, and the scanning is active, and it's just up there at 26 at the moment. So when it gets to 30, it'll go back to do 1 again. And just waiting for it. There we go. Okay, so 2, 3, 4, 5. And while I'm waiting for that, I should say that you can add accessories manually here. You can turn off scanning, Wifitrax, rail mesh scanning, and you can add your accessories manually, and you can include them. If you know the IP addresses, you can include them in there, and the DCC addresses and so on. So you can do it manually. Oh, there we go. There's the first one found. 300 to 303, and there's the second one, 200 to 203, and there's the third one, 400, 401. Just go on to the next page. Okay, 402, right? So that's the 8-channel one. So now we found all our known accessory modules, we can go back to settings and we can turn off rail mesh scanning. It's a good idea to do this because that way the WFD-60 module has less work to do. It's less likely for some weird thing to happen or something like that. So we now see module scanning paused. I'll talk about accessory state polling later. So here we've got a list, and we've got, I think, 16, a total of 16. There's an index on the left. If we go to the next page, that goes up 0 to 15, so there's 16 altogether. The index is assigned automatically. Previous page, and you can see there's groups of 4, as we just noticed, and all the channels in that group of 4 have the same IP address. So that's the IP address of, I think it was the WFS-48. And then looking at the next group of 4, that'll be the WFS-43. They've all got the same IP address. And the last group of 8 was the WFS-84, the end switch motor controller. So now we can click on these, and that takes us to the accessory detail page of the information stored in the WFD-60. So there we can see the accessory address, that's the DCC address, the IP address of that whole module, and some other things which we can talk about later. But now if we go and we click on this hyperlink, this will actually take us to the remote module itself. And there we've opened another tab, which I can now move out and have as a separate window. I'm using Edge here. You could do the same thing with Chrome, a second, or Safari. So I've opened a second window there now, which will be useful to us, because we can now see that is indeed the WFS-48. And so let's do the same for the next group. So we've opened a window for that switch machine controller, the WFS-43, the store motor one, and put that just there. So we've got a neat kind of tiling of our windows. Okay, and go to the last one here, and the same thing. So now on one screen we've got the WFD-60 switch machine channels, or accessory channels, and we've also got the web pages for those devices. So here so on the left hand window we're accessing the WFD-60, and on these 3 right hand screens we're going directly to the IP address of the modules. So the WFD-60 gives you that means, if you like, to actually scan and find out the IP addresses of everything on there, and then allow you to go directly to them. Okay, so now we can start testing these, and to make it more visible, I'm going to click on the switch machine channels option of each of the controllers themselves, so that I can see them change. And we'll start off then with the servo motor switch machine controller, channel 0 of the WFS-48. So if we tap on that, then we can see over here that it changes to throne, and you can see it has changed on the motor itself. Now we'll try this one, and you can hear the store motor switch machine moving, and try this one, and you can hear the end switch motors moving, and those have all updated here. The next thing I'm going to demonstrate is how to operate switch channels or switch machine controllers from an app such as Engine Driver. So Engine Driver can connect to the WFD-60 because it's a Y throttle server, just like JMRI or the WFD-30, for example, or the WFD-29 command station booster. So the first thing we're going to do here is to tap on Settings and Connections. Connections, oh dear. It's hard to do this when you're holding the phone at the same time. And make sure we're connected to Wifitrax Demo 3. Okay, we are. So now we can go back to the home page and run Engine Driver. And Engine Driver shows that we've got a Y-throttle server available, SN360, and that's the serial number 360-00119 of this WFD-60, and there's its IP address and the default port 12090. So if we tap on that, then we're connected to it, and we're not going to run any trains. We're going to slide over to the points one, and we've got server defined there, selected by default, and then we see all of our points, all of our channels on our switch machine controllers that have been found. We can swipe up and see them all there. So there should be 16 of them. So let's just try tapping on one of them. And that was the stall motor control, the tallest switch machine. Try 300. And there goes the servo motor. And if we try 400, (401), so we can operate the switches that are defined in our WFD-60 by connecting to it using something like engine driver or Y-throttle. So now I'm going to show you how to use a TCS UWT-100. This one's just been factory reset, so it's not got any Wi-Fi network. So we're searching for Wi-Fi here, and it should find Wifitrax Demo 3 in a moment. Okay, I'll do add new Wi-Fi. Scan for Wi-Fi. Okay, we've found several. I don't know why it didn't the last time. So we select Wifitrax Demo 3. That's the network which has got the WFD-60 and all of the switch machine controllers connected to it. So we select that. And now it's going to ask for the password. And I'll just put in the password here. Found a Y-throttle server. And so we can hit save. And we're connected to it. Okay, so we should be connected to the WFD-60, I think. So now let's select points, and sure enough, there they all are. Okay, so we can first try with 200. So we just hit, oh dear, sorry, it's hard to hold this. So we'll try, let's have a look at it. There we go. Okay, so that's working all right, the tortoise one. And if we go down a bit, 300, and there we go, that's the servo motor one working. And go down again, 400, and those are working too. So just to continue on with the WFD-60, okay, I've shown you how you can control your turnouts using an app such as Engine Driver or Y-throttle, and also using something like the UWT-100 or UWT-50, which both of those are apps that use the Y-throttle server aspect of the WFD-60. Now, the thing is that if you've got an outdoor layout with switches controlled by switch machines, and also locomotives with Wifitrax WDMI-27 or WDMI-32, then you can control your locomotives using the same instance of engine driver or the UWT through the WFD-60. However, with an indoor layout, you normally wouldn't be able to do that. So you might not want to dedicate your UWT-100 just to controlling switches. You'd be wanting to use it to control locos. So you know, you're probably going to want to use a browser to control your turnouts using either the WFD-60 remote accessories page and the buttons as I've demonstrated, or using panels. Now I'm going to go through a very simple example of a panel. So the WFD-60 by default controls one panel, so we can edit that panel, and I'm going to select panel properties, call it something like, I don't know, test railroad, and we'll make it a little bit bigger than the default here. And there's an awful lot of features in the panels capability of the WFD-60, and I'm going to make another video where I go into those in a lot more detail. But first of all, this is just an introduction. So let's put a few turnouts on the screen. And there we go. We'll line them all up using the align horizontal, and we'll make some track, put some track, and just a simple arrangement here. So the track snaps to the turnouts or to other sections of track. You can hold down the shift key and then just move it horizontally. A bit more track here. That'll do. So now we've got all of these points. I'm going to increase the size of that a bit. All of these points here, all accessing point 300, which, if you remember, was the stall motor switch machine on the WFS-48. So let's actually change the second and the third ones. Let's make this one access point 200, and this one control point 400, and just we'll close panel properties there, and we'll save. Okay, and we'll go back out of this, and so now that's to edit. This hyperlink here runs it in operational mode. So we can now tap on one of these. That's the servo motor. That's the stall motor. And that is the end switch motor. So that's how that works. So that's really a good way of, I think, of controlling all of your switch machines on your layout by using a panel which you can display on any tablet, such as a Android or an iPad, or you can use a laptop or a desktop to control your layout. Well, just to finish up, I've got my iPad here connected to Wifitrax Demo 3, and with the IP address 192.168.341, which we know is the IP address of the WFD-60, and I've opened up the same map that you saw on my desktop, and you would want to save this as a shortcut, okay, in your favorites, something like that, because you don't want to have to keep messing around putting in IP addresses. So now let's try this. So that That was that one. And we tap on the other one here. Yeah, and tap on the third one. So that all operates nicely. And of course you could make a much more complex. You can have up to 200 elements on these maps. An element is a track section, a switch, a turnout that is, or anything else like a rectangle representing a building. So up to 200. Okay, so that's an overview then of how you can control switch machine controllers over Wi-Fi using the WFD-60. And I'll be making a later video with much more information about the WFD-60, I think. I'll call it Advanced Wi-Fi Control, something like that. And I'll also include some lighting controllers, which we also have, WFG 82 and 84, which you can use to control light signals. You could also, of course, use the servo motor controller to control semaphore signals. Okay, in which case you could control all that from a panel. Okay, so there's a lot here, a great deal here. Thank you very much.